One Piece is infamous for its mega arcs, spanning hundreds of chapters and leaving some fans bored to death. Whether it be Dressrosa showing the same flashback 46 times, or Wano having 50 chapter-long fights with irrelevant characters. Though, there is one often forgotten mega arc that in my opinion rises far above the rest. The arc that turned one of my least favourite Strawhats into my favourite, the whole Cake Island arc. Sanji has always been a unique character to say the least. He has a cool design, a unique style of combat, and a slew of wacky character traits. Sanji is known for being a chivalrous white knight and having a strict code of conduct, often to a fault. He won't use his hands to fight, as the hands of a cook are sacred. He will never touch a woman in combat, and let's be real, he's never feeling the touch of a woman either. And most admirable, he no matter what, will always feed the hungry. He will abide by this strict code even if it kills him, as shown in his fight with Khalifa, and that one time when he literally fed an enemy pirate back to health so his crew can come and whoop his ass. Being the result of almost starving to death and years of Zeff's training and lessons, these traits made him a relatively interesting and well-rounded character. Though, compared to the other Straw Hats, Sanji just lacked a bit of substance. Sanji didn't have Zoro's badass moments, Luffy's desire for freedom, or Robin's incredible character arc. Don't get me wrong, he was still a fan favourite. He had some awesome moments like Diablo Jambe, that moment in Sky Pier, the Sea Train, even the fight with Wanze, the coldest villain in One Piece, where he busted out the knives. Though, he was undeniably seen as the worst of the monster trio by the majority. I know, it's controversial, but character polls do not lie, and I have met way more Zoro fanboys than Sanji ones. He legitimately got overtaken by Law, a character who was made up like 3 days before he debuted. During the time skip, while Luffy trained with Rayleigh, the first mate of the Pirate King, and Zoro trained with Mihawk, the strongest swordsman in the entire world, Sanji learned Haki by running away from Okama for 2 years. It's clear that he was the comic relief character of the monster trio, and to be honest, a large chunk of the fanbase found his simp-like nature to be quite annoying. But all of this changed when the whole Cake Island arc rolled around. Oda just decided, I'm just going to make him the best character in the series. He just throws us a massive curveball at the start of Zou. Sanji leaves the crew. He's got connections to an emperor. He's an actual prince. He's got a family of superheroes. It was made clear there was a whole lot more to this character than we had previously thought. Sanji's actions beyond this point truly made me understand what a masterfully written character he is. A character who represents the core values of the series as much, if not even more, than Luffy himself. Sanji has to be at least in the top 3 for One Piece backstories. Like, this genuinely made me cry. The themes were handled so well. The representation of abuse was exceptional. It all started to make sense. Sanji's outlandish rules were directly correlated to his depressing, emotional, and simply heartbreaking backstory. He never touched a woman because the only people who treated him with any human decency were his sister and mother. He viewed cooking as sacred because cooking was his only outlet and escape from his abusive father and siblings. And then Sora's sacrifice. Sanji's mother's sacrifice epitomized Sanji as a character. She ended her life to make sure that Sanji wasn't like his siblings, that he was a rebel. Sanji is the embodiment of rebellion. His very birth was a rebellion of his mother against his father. His escape from his family was rebellion. His refusal to fight with his hands, rebellion. His refusal to touch a woman, rebellion. And his sacrifice, his betrayal, his leaving the crew, rebellion. The very rules that he set for himself were the ones that made him truly free, a rebellion against his father's ways. Many would consider Luffy the freedom fighter of the crew, and yes, he definitely does fit that mold. Luffy's goal is quite literally to be the most free man in the world, but Luffy doesn't really know what it's like to be trapped. Luffy has always at least been somewhat free. Sanji, however, has never been truly free. Whether it be being trapped on a floating rock in starvation, or trapped in Judge's dungeon, both metaphorically and physically. As we see, Sanji never truly escaped Judge's wrath. Throughout the series, we see him as a character who does things in his own way, a rebel, who lived by his own set of rules, but all along he was a mere pawn in his hated family's plan. Just like his mother, he could no longer rebel like he used to. He realized that all along, he was still in control by Judge. He never won the battle, he was just a mere rebel. The only reason he had any freedom is because Judge stopped fighting. The second he started fighting again, Sanji was trapped. Thus, Sanji's dream is the All Blue, an ocean, free, full of food, and free for the whole world, not just himself. Sanji is selfless, as he realizes the true pain of being trapped. This selfless nature is culminated in why he fights. Unlike Zoro, who fights to get stronger and achieve his goal of the strongest swordsman, or Luffy, who just pretty much just fights someone if they piss him off, Sanji fights almost always for the sake of others. Therefore, Sanji was forced to choose his loyalty to his crew over his desire for freedom. He returned to the hellish life he escaped from to protect the people that he escaped to. This leads to one of the most heartbreaking moments in the series, where Sanji attempts to make peace with his arranged marriage after he realizes that he can't even find happiness in these circumstances. He breaks down into tears. He accepts defeat. He accepts being trapped. And he gives up on his dream. This was until Sanji's true family arrived. Luffy versus Sanji is the culmination of Sanji's internal struggle. His decision of whether to sacrifice his own freedom for the sake of others, or to rebel for the sake of his dream and risk the death of his loved ones. It is these two opposing values of Sanji's character which stand in opposition to one another in this fight, with Luffy representing Sanji's rebellious nature. Sanji initially chose to leave the crew and sacrifice himself. He viewed this as the more loyal, selfless, and noble choice, as he was saving his loved ones. But Luffy showed him the meaning of true loyalty by malnourishing himself and showing Sanji how integral he was to the Straw Hat crew. And Sanji, due to his values, couldn't refuse feeding him. As we all know, food is at the core of Luffy's character, so he was making a major sacrifice as well for Sanji. Luffy was ready to fight and protect Sanji, to be a rebel along with him. But Sanji didn't even give him that option. Luffy needed Sanji. Luffy was ready to protect Sanji. For Sanji to leave to save the crew was not a loyal action at all. This action made Sanji realize that the path to loyalty was through rebelling and returning to the crew. Luffy taught Sanji not to give up on his ideals and to fight for his freedom. Like his own mother, there were lives at risk if he chose to rebel. She lost her life, so Sanji owed it to her to continue the rebellion. Sanji inherited Sora's will. Sanji, as a character, teaches us to be loyal to our core values and to always fight for freedom. He teaches us that loyalty is a complex issue. We sometimes think we are being selfless and loyal, but often we are disloyal, not just to others, but to ourselves, to our core values, and to those before us. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next one.